Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Mr. Daddy Duties. So, let me start off by saying good morning. Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, July the 17th, and I am days away from having to return back to work after my 6-week leave. So, a little bittersweet this week, but my wife and I and my sons, we're going to enjoy it to the best of our ability. So, first and foremost, I would like to say I am sorry. I was supposed to put out another vlog last week in reference to my birthday having turned 30 on July the 8th. And I was compiling all of my videos and everything, and it just didn't work out the way in which it was supposed to. Plus, I fell ill. And the reason why I fell ill was because I was actually preparing for a vasectomy. And I was under the impression that I could not have any form of pain medication whatsoever. And so for about 36 hours, I had a headache. And I was almost getting ready to give in, forget it. I'm going to take medication and they're going to have to reschedule. I called the nurse and she was like, you can have everything. You can't have anything but Tylenol. And I was like, oh, well, that's all I take anyways. So lo and behold, I felt better in preparation for my vasectomy, which was about 2 or 3 days out prior to that. But that is what this episode is about. It is about my experience having a vasectomy, and then some of the reasons maybe why men don't actually get vasectomies. So just to start off from square one, my wife and I had the conversation for a while, after having our first son, on whether or not we actually wanted to have another one. I was up for it. Her not so much. And so eventually she came back around. We got back to the idea of actually having another child, knowing that in the event that we actually had another child, that there was possibility that it could be two, because her mother is a twin. And so we just don't know the risk of it. And we knew that, if we had to, we would be completely done. We initially wanted to have 3. I initially, at one point in time, when I was actually growing up, wanted to have 5. 5 children. Actually, I wanted to have 8. And then together we were saying that we would have 5 children. And then as we got more mature, after having the first one, we knew that maybe 3, but eventually we were like 2 and we're good. So we had the conversation, the talk of, who would get what. Whether I would get snipped or whether or not she would get her tubes tied. And in all honesty and all fairness, it made sense for me to just go ahead and get snipped. The best way that you can really describe it. Just knowing the risk involved for her, knowing that she would have to be put under, and it would be considered a major surgery for her, whereas for me, it would literally be an out-of-the-office procedure. Cost is always another factor anytime that you're actually doing something, especially when there are 2 parties involved, knowing that one can get it and then the other one decides to get it, knowing that they're high risk to it. And then the time frame in which she would be out compared to the time frame in which I would be out. So knowing that if she was to go through the procedure to have her tubes tied, it would be another 8-week recovery, whereas me would be a few days. I'm still in recovery if I'm being 100% honest. It's not even been a full week yet. I had it last Thursday, and my wife is pretty hilarious. Every single day she asks me, are you sure you want to do it? Are you sure? Where's your mind? Are you okay with actually getting it done? And initially there was a lot of hesitation. There was a lot of fear. Oh my God, what is going to happen? Just the experience in itself. But luckily enough for me, once I had my wife call the insurance company to see if they were going to be willing to actually pay anything, and realizing that we had actually met our deductible this year with her being pregnant and all the other appointments that we were actually going to, it made sense for me to just go ahead and get it because it wasn't going to cost much. So that made me very, very happy. But on top of that, knowing that, or deciding, I should say, that we were 100% sure that we did not want to have any other children. And people are like, are you going to try for a girl? Are you going to try for a girl? And our answer to that is, what God was meant to give us, He gave us. And we are absolutely fine with that. We have two beautiful goddaughters, Ariana and Karis, who are in Texas. We have two wonderful sons, Matthew the second and Levi, and we have what we consider a love child, a spiritual child, whom we love dearly. Destiny is what we like to call her, but Miss Desiree. So we know without a shadow of a doubt that we aren't going to have any more children, and we're absolutely okay with that. We are not going to try for a girl. When you factor in having more children, people think that it's so cute to have kids, and it is cute. You enjoy them, you love them. As they get older, you might get a little bit more tired, a little bit more stressed. But you have to factor in a lot. So if we were to have a third child, we would have to get a new home. Whereas we have two boys who can actually share a room for a few years, we would have to get a new car because it would be so tight. And my wife's mid-size SUV, and I drive a car, so we would definitely have to get a new vehicle, and we're not getting a minivan. So that means we'd have to get big SUVs. And the cost, right? So we have childcare, we have clothes, we eventually have school and college, and I want to retire good. All right, so children are a blessing from the Lord, but the Lord also gives us wisdom to know what we can and cannot handle, and we knew that we can only handle two. So we are not outnumbered. We are gracious, and we are blessed with the two that He has given us outside of the other loved children that we actually have, and we are happy with it. So back to the vasectomy. So my vasectomy was last Thursday. Not too much anxiety. I was absolutely fine with it. But, you know, as we got a little bit closer to the time frame, I started getting stressed and panicked. And I was like calling the nurse like, hey, like I'm looking at my chart and I see I have this and that to do. And my wife was like, this is what we should do. And I'm like, no, this is what they said. So I was like in high panic mode. And so, you know, eventually we got to the office and, you know, I went back by myself. My wife and my son stayed in the waiting room, and my wife was full of giggles. Lucky her, because she wasn't having to go through it. And, you know, I get to the back of the room, and the nurse is like, all right, go ahead and take off your pants and lay on the bed, and there's this big sheet that'll cover your whole body, and we'll be in just a second. So I obliged and laid back, and I'm like, okay, here we go. So the doctor knocks on the door. They come in. He puts this drape over my stuff. And I instantly felt like I was on the other end of the spectrum. And so I told the doctor, I feel like I'm on the other end of the spectrum, you know, on the other end of it. Because I remember weeks prior, I was watching my son get a vasectomy. And I remember they put the little drape over and I could see all the clamps and all of this stuff. And I've been like, a little bit of panic mode where I wasn't even relaxed on the table. Like my back was arched up. And he's like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm good. And so in my mind, I was good, but my body was like fully tensed up. And he was like, we're going to give you some Lidocaine. And I'm like, okay, great. You know, I won't be able to feel anything. Lies they tell. Lo and behold, as he was working on one side of my scrotum, it was numb. It was pretty numb. It was okay. But when he got into, you know, the cutting and all the other type of stuff, I instantly start feeling it. So he's like, can you feel that? And I was like, mm-hmm. And he's cutting away and doing his thing. And he's giving me more Lidocaine. And you know, he finally gets done. And he says, all right, you might smell a little burning. But we're all done with over here. With this side. And instantly, as you see my eyes, I was like, what does he mean he's all done? And I was like, so you've only done one side? And he said, yeah, now I got to go do the other side. I said, is there another incision that you have to do? And he was like, no, the same incision. And in my mind, I was like, what the hell did I get myself into? So I'm like, there he goes with the other side. And he gives me more. He was like, I already gave you enough Lidocaine, but I'm going to give you a little bit more just in case you can feel. And so he gave me more. And he was like, he went to work on the other side. And he was like, can you feel that? And I was like, Mm-hmm. And he was like, all right, I already gave you enough, but I'm going to give you a little bit more Lidocaine to see if it helps. So he gave me a little bit more. And he was like, can you feel that? And I said, is that the needle? And he says, oh, no, we've already done that. And I was like, yeah, I can feel that. And he goes, doing this thing. And I'm like tensing and moving. And he was like, can you feel that? And every few minutes he would check on me. And one side hurt more than the other side because he did inform me, and I have an extremely high tolerance to pain. He said that, it takes a while sometimes for some people to absorb the Lidocaine. So it was taking you a little bit longer to absorb it because the moment that he finished, I couldn't feel anything. Right? So I'm in like dire panic, like, oh my God, what is he doing to me? Like, I'm in so much pain. When is this going to stop? And then he finally finishes and gets this thing done. And then he gave me a little bit of instructions on, icing it, making sure you're taking pain medication, making sure you're lying down for the next 24 to 48 hours, and just sitting on your butt. But he forgot to give me, which is, after I'm done with you, I'm going to have to call, what I need to do to make sure that I have zero count, right? Because one, I didn't go through this pain for nothing. And two, I'm not paying this money to not be able to have as much fun as I want. FYI to my wife, who will eventually see this. So I have to call the doctor to get my instructions for when I need to go to make sure that I'm taking, or I'm going to get my semen analysis to make sure that my sperm count is disintegrating. And so, some people are like super weirded out, like, why are you talking about this? Because I think it's so important that men really understand the benefit in us being able to actually get this particular thing done instead of having to have our spouses or our partners go through the daunting experience of having to have their tubes tied and having significant surgery. So I was reading through an article and just figuring out what are some of the reasons why men fear having vasectomies. A lot of them is obviously pain. I'm going to be honest with you now. Day one, it was full of pain. And I have a 3-year-old at home. And so luckily enough for me, I was upstairs in my bedroom. My wife and my son were downstairs in the sitting room. And she made sure that he stayed down there. Glory be to God. Because he and I roughhouse. He likes to jump all over me. And so I had to tell him, Matthew, Daddy went to the doctor today. And they cut Daddy. And I couldn't say they cut Daddy's scrotum. I had to say they cut Daddy's penis. So he's like, they cut your penis? Where? Let me see. And I'm like, no, you can't see. But this is what happened, so you have to be careful. And so luckily enough, he was able to stay downstairs and I was able to relax. So a lot of men fear the pain. They feel like it's going to be an impact on their sex life. One thing that I read and one thing that I asked the doctor and made sure that I was not going to have any problems was making sure that, quote unquote, some men fear that your sex drive will disintegrate. It's not the case at all. I just hit 30, so I'm good to go. You definitely may feel like you don't want to do it for a few days. Like, stay away from me. Just like they be acting, that's probably how you're going to be like. Just stay away from me. Don't touch me. I don't want you to do anything down here. Just leave me alone. But the impact on its sex life, some people also fear, what if it does not work? The thing to remember after having a vasectomy is that you have to go, which is one thing that the doctor has informed me, and the nurse has informed me, that most men won't go to make sure that they actually turn in their semen analysis. You have to get it done, because if you get it done, what's the point in actually getting it if you're not going to follow up and making sure that you don't have to worry about having any additional children, right? So making sure that is done as well. But, I find it extremely important and beneficial in making sure that, one, you talk to your wife or your significant other. One thing that my doctor was consistent in my consultation is making sure that my wife and I were in agreement. He didn't say, let me call her, make sure that she was okay with it, but he definitely did say, are you married, and are you and your significant other both agreeing to this. And I was like, we're good to go. Actually, she the one who wanted me to get it done. So that means since she wanted me to get it done, she better be ready for what's getting ready to happen after I heal. But you know, making sure that, you know, you just talking to your significant other and making sure that it's something that you both equally want to do is so important. And see, that's one of the reasons why I'm not going to have another one right there. You hear my son yelling from the top of the stairs. But no. On top of that, after actually getting done with my procedure, and the doctor's like, I'm going to put water on you just to clean you up. When you get up, it'll look like you have a puddle of blood on you. And I get up and I'm like, oh my gosh. It was like a ton of stuff all over the bed. It was so gross. I actually ended up cleaning it up myself. I used to work in the healthcare field, so I didn't want any nurse, any doctor to come into the room and see all of this stuff on the floor, knowing that it wasn't really for me. But I'm like, I gotta clean this up. I gotta throw this away myself. But when I was walking out to the waiting room, I should say walking, I was actually like limping. My wife was cracking up laughing. And so I was like, don't talk to me, let's just go. And she had informed me that a gentleman had actually walked in with his wife and 3 sons. I think she said all under the age of 7. And she knew what was getting ready to happen when she seen him with his orange bag that they like to give you. And she says that the entire time as I was in my procedure, all he could do was like shake his leg. His leg was just shaking the entire time. And the moment that he seen me coming out limping, she said she looked at him and it looked like he was getting ready to burst into tears. So, man, whoever you are, you got it done for the sake of your family to make sure you didn't have to worry about having any additional children. Have fun after you heal. But men, it is a benefit to us to make sure that we are doing something significant to make sure that our significant other does not have to go through a daunting procedure. So I encourage every man, despite the amount of pain that I have felt or may be feeling, because again, I'm still going through healing, it is something that is extremely beneficial to you. That's extremely beneficial to your family, to make sure, again, that it's something that your significant other doesn't have to go through. To each his own. Everyone has their own, thing that they're going to do, everything that they want to do. But I know that it was going to be the best thing that was going to be for me and my family. And I'm happy I got it done. I don't have a thing to worry about now. My father has 10 children. So I'm not going down that rope. And I'm going to make sure moving forward that I go and get my semen analysis done so I can have that 0 sperm count. Thank you all for tuning in to Mr. Daddy Duties. Be on the lookout for our next episode. It'll be related to me actually returning back to work, physically to the office. I have enjoyed my 6 weeks here with my family. I am hoping that I am healed by next Monday before I actually have to go into work, so that I can actually just do my thing. But thank you all so much for tuning in to Mr. Daddy Duties. Continue to follow us on Facebook at Mr. Daddy Duties, Twitter at Mr. Daddy Duties, and Instagram at Mr. Daddy Duties. Peace. Love ya.